Making movies is a type of magic, and for as long as magic has existed, people have had a desire to see the truth behind the tricks. Magicians are unfortunately sworn to secrecy, but filmmakers are not. So over the years, we've been given a number of different looks behind the scenes, via a number of different mediums. But recently, I think our options for accessing this type of content have become less than ideal, and I'd like to dive into why. Let's start with a bit of history, although I admit it's actually quite hard to find information on the early days. It seems throughout the 50s and 60s, television was the only place you'd get a peek behind the curtain of Hollywood, unless you actually went. News stations would sometimes broadcast little tours of the studios, or interviews with the creatives. TV continued to be the best way to access behind-the-scenes content throughout the 70s and 80s. The emerging form that this took was the TV special. These were mini documentaries that took a look at how a movie was made, often featuring a mixture of interviews and footage from the set. Some of these would come out after a film's release to give fans a deeper look at something they already loved. Others came out before the movie they were talking about, so had an additional element of marketing involved in the setup. They all varied in length, some were 20 minutes long, some were 40 minutes. The making of Star Wars was 50 minutes long and came out just 4 months after the release of the original movie in 1977. It aired on ABC and was hosted by C-3PO and R2-D2, who were simultaneously in character and fully aware of the fact Star Wars was a movie, which leads to some bizarre moments.
Yes, R2, I was very glad to leave Tunisia, because then we went to film in the studios in England, which was much nicer. And the sets were unbelievable.
The behind-the-scenes TV specials for the Back to the Future series are actually the first thing Peyton Reed ever directed. Not only did we get a fun look at what went into making the trilogy, but a young filmmaker got his start in directing. Have we got any Peyton Reed fans in the audience tonight? No? Well, throughout these decades, there was also the rise of home media, the ability to buy movies and keep them in your homes. Occasionally, they'd release these TV making-of specials on video cassette tapes alongside the movies themselves. The Star Wars special I was just talking about was one example, and some versions even included a trailer for The Empire Strikes Back. Videos didn't have fun, interactive menus that would help you select different chapters and explore other material, but they would sometimes chuck all the juicy extras after the credits of the movie had rolled. The interactive element was available on some obscure mediums like the Laserdisc and digital video discs that allowed for a bit more maneuverability between chapters and sections. But Laserdiscs never really went mainstream, and DVD players were pretty unaffordable, so they weren't going to take off. So the marriage between home video and behind-the-scenes insight didn't really happen in the 90s. But then in 2001, something happened that changed everything. DVD players were suddenly available at a reasonable price. It's one of the reasons Dominic Toretto had to start looking for more valuable targets. Suddenly everyone was buying DVDs, watching DVDs, displaying DVDs, and the marriage between the movies and the bonus material was finally consummated. The two things existing hand in hand became the norm. They would either come as a bonus disc included with the movie, or all on the same circle, as a handy little use of the interactive menu technology, which was always really fun and never incredibly annoying. Once home video became the home of bonus features, we were set. For those wonderful years, if you had access to a movie, you had access to everything that went with it. Gone were the days of having to actively seek them out on TV, waiting for reruns or new documentaries about old films. They were just there. And there were so many different types. Although the making of stuff was the most common, you could find a load of other things deep in the DVDs. You had trailers, bloopers, minigames, little bonus clips like the time Elijah Wood was pranked by Dominic Monaghan, and whatever the hell Far Far Away Idol was.
What I like about you.
You hold me tight.
Oh, tell me I'm the only one.
You're gonna come over tonight.
Yeah.
It became the place for miscellaneous bits and bobs that didn't really have a home anywhere else. For example, there was a bizarre mockumentary that aired in TV in 2001 about the troubled life of a young droid actor called R2-D2 Beneath the Dome. It definitely wouldn't have warranted its own physical release, but as part of the Attack of the Clones DVD, perfection. But as I said before, the bulk of the content you'd find in the DVD extras were behind-the-scenes looks at the film's production. These came in a number of different forms. Deleted scenes are a classic, an amazing way to get more from the movies you loved. You'd spend most of your time understanding why these cut moments never made it into the final picture, but occasionally you'd get those gems, those scenes whose omissions you'll never fully be able to wrap your head around, but their inclusion on the DVD is incredibly welcome. You have commentaries, which is almost like sitting down and watching something with the people who made it. Not only do you get hundreds of anecdotes and insight into their creative process, but you can also pretend for 2 hours that you have friends to watch movies with. It's win-win. You've got mini featurettes looking at a specific aspect of the production in detail, whether that's the set design, the casting, the VFX, the sound, the music. But every now and then you'd be treated to something really special. A long, sometimes feature-length documentary about every aspect of the filmmaking. My favourites being the chronological ones that take you through every step of the journey in the specific order that they happened. It's the gold standard of the DVD extra. Movies about movies, often included in the same plastic case. Did it just reinvent the old TV format? Kind of, but there was a revolutionary new layer of accessibility. And with the understanding that behind-the-scenes footage and interviews were real selling points when it came to the home video releases, I think a lot more effort was put into documenting the full experience. This stuff was no longer going out as a one-off television event. It was going to be packaged alongside the movie itself for the foreseeable future. There are countless examples of fantastic movie-making documentation from the early 2000s. But the two that really stick out to me are The Beginning, which tells the full, authentic story of the Phantom Menace's inception all the way through to its release, and The Making of the Lord of the Rings. Anyone who's seen them will tell you how phenomenal they are. So detailed, so magical, and so long, like approaching 2 hours for each installment of the trilogy. Obviously, these are the most exceptional, best of the best, but pretty much every movie I watched as a child on DVD had a load of engaging, insightful, and entertaining additional material, sitting alongside the film on the disc. I've neglected them so far, but so much of this also applies to television shows. I think I was much less of a TV box set guy growing up, but for the shows I did own physically, a nice number of them came with a bonus disc containing all the kinds of things I've been talking about for movies. As much as possible, I tried to avoid the "when I was a child, things were the best they ever got, society's really taken a downward spiral since then" mentality, because it's usually rose-tinted bollocks. But in this specific area of bonus feature enjoyment, I'm not sure it ever got better than that. I would never have gone, I want to know how they make the movies when I was younger. I don't think it even would have crossed my mind. But when I accidentally found them on the Star Wars DVD, it got me interested in the filmmaking process, the art, the everything. Quentin Tarantino once said, "When people ask me if I went to film school, I tell them, no, I went to films." And I think he was specifically speaking in relation to Far, Far Away Idol. But in all seriousness, I'm sure the unbelievably easy access to the making of world inspired countless individuals to pursue careers in film. It's where I learned about roles like concept artists, set designers, camera operators, stunt crews. We probably have behind-the-scenes content to thank for a number of modern-day filmmakers, but I do worry that that's so much less possible these days. Obviously, the thing that's changed is how we watch our movies. I hate when videos like this treat the viewers like aliens who have just arrived on Earth and know nothing about the world. I don't need to explain to you that streaming took over everything. We all know that that happened. Once you could watch movies on the Wii via the interwebs, everything changed. When I first got Netflix and made that transition towards the digital, I thought we had eradicated all need for physical media. And for years, I didn't buy any. If there was a film I wanted to watch, it was either already on a streaming service I had, or it would be in a couple of months. With literally thousands of movies and TV shows at my fingertips, what could I possibly want from a disc copy of one film that cost me about the same as all my monthly streaming services combined? Well, in the case of Star Wars The Force Awakens, I just wanted it on my shelf. It was a Star Wars movie. Owning it physically was a no-brainer, which was weird because I'd had no interest in buying any films in years. I think part of me just wanted to rewatch the new Star Wars ASAP, so normal rules didn't apply. When the Blu-ray arrived, I rewatched the film and then was immediately reminded about the other key selling points of a movie's physical release. The extras. And I'm not talking about Constable Zuvio. I'm talking about the wonderful pieces of media that come alongside the film. And as I watched the deleted scenes, the featurettes, the documentaries, it was like that bit in Ratatouille. I was suddenly a child again, discovering the scene of Obi-Wan in the Jedi Temple analysis room, feeling like I'd uncovered a big secret. After an unintentional hiatus, I fell back in love with the bonus features, and I've been a physical media guy ever since. It's funny, I know a lot of people who had similar experiences. The initial honeymoon period of streaming wore off, and they realised that the specific behind-the-scenes itch just wasn't being scratched. I'm not an edgy film snob that thinks I'm too good for streaming. I just want to see how these things are made. The creativity in the execution, the genius in the problem solving, the passion that these filmmakers have for every aspect of the process. It blows my mind, and it's not something that's being offered anywhere else. In recent years, Netflix have made a couple of little specials about some of their original shows and movies. They're up on the service as their own thing, not as a bonus section or anything like that, but it's all very minimal. It's for a tiny fraction of their originals, which in turn makes up for an even smaller percentage of their overall library. I guess the other place you could find your fix is YouTube. You can find some B-roll footage, outtakes, interviews. Occasionally you'll find some worthwhile behind-the-scenes insight. Vanity Fair have a great series called Notes on a Scene, where the creative people behind a movie will break down a specific public scene. It's fascinating hearing the unique perspective that these people bring to the film, whether that's a VFX artist, a stunt coordinator, a costume designer, a choreographer, the stars, or the director. But stuff this good is rare, and none of it really compares to the quality and diversity of material you'll find in the bonus features of a Blu-ray. The documentary about The Last Jedi is called The Director and the Jedi, and absolutely stands up there with the Lord of the Rings and Phantom Menace equivalents. It's a raw, detailed, emotional, and heartwarming record of how that movie went from script to screen. It's funny now considering Disney's attitude towards the film, but they were clearly proud of how smoothly production went on it. It's the only one of their Star Wars films where they've released such a detailed insight into the making of. The others have been given schmaltzy fluff pieces that focus on legacy and family to cover up the hiring, firing, and story-altering reshoots that took place. The best type of bonus feature is the one that honestly portrays a film's journey. The struggles, the disagreements, the Mark Hamill drinking alien booby milk. I think studios nowadays can be a bit scared of showing the reality of filmmaking, and that's a bit of a shame. It does happen sometimes, but you can't expect much from Disney. That magical, detailed documentation of the filmmaking process that I spoke about for the early 2000s hasn't really stopped. We've just lost our incredibly widespread access to it, and that's really sad. If I'd been born 10 years ago instead of 20, who knows what my exposure to movies would be like? Without access to all these bonus features, who knows if I would have developed this interest in film that's led me to doing this YouTube channel? Is this the sad reality of the modern day world? Are we in a post-bonus features media landscape? Has all hope been lost? Honestly, 2 years ago, I may have said yes. I would have said physical media was gradually on the way out, and the DVD and Blu-ray extras would sink with the ship after failing to adapt to the modern consuming public. But now, I'm not so sure. The cloud may have a silver lining, and this lining may come in the specific shape of one large circle with two smaller circles on each side at the top. Yes, approximately 50 seconds after I said you can't expect much from Disney, I'm going to tell you all about how they are single-handedly saving the day on this front. The most revolutionary feature on the Disney Plus streaming platform is the little extras section that's there for pretty much everything on the service. It's where you'll find trailers, deleted scenes, commentaries, intros from the director, all the featurettes and documentary content that used to be exclusive to the DVDs and Blu-rays. There are director's commentaries, and for the musicals they even have alternate sing-along versions of them. It's unbelievably convenient and a category that literally every streaming service should include. If I had any suggestions on how Disney Plus could improve, I think some of the more major documentaries could do with being listed as their own movies, because these extras tabs have so much content that they can become a bit hidden. A full behind-the-scenes genre would be a welcome addition, and we would not be starved of content under this category, because of the other thing Disney are doing really well: production of their own making-of material. Every single major Disney Plus exclusive has had a documentary special or series made about it, and they're not buried away, difficult to find. A big deal is made out of them. Right now, the first thing you'll see when you open Disney Plus is the Loki episode of Marvel Studios Assembled. It's there as the featured release. For WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we've got into this really nice rhythm of watching weekly episodes and then a documentary about the show 1 week after the finale. The turnaround is outstanding, and it's essentially the icing on the cake after the series is done. They're all about an hour long, so properly substantial. It's funny, we've almost come full circle back to the day of the TV special, although now we have pretty immediate access behind the Hollywood curtain, on the same platform you saw the original magic. The Frozen sequel wasn't a Disney Plus original, but Into the Unknown Making Frozen 2 was. It was a series of 6 40-minute episodes, and it perfectly encompasses exactly what I was saying this stuff should be earlier. It's honest, it's chaotic, and it's incredibly interesting. The fact Disney made a detailed show all about the troubled production of one of their biggest movies ever, and then put that show on their flagship streaming service is very strange, but I'm so glad they did. There's a real variety in the way this content is delivered. Disney Gallery The Mandalorian featured a mixture of roundtable discussion and behind-the-scenes footage. It was split into 8 20 to 40-minute episodes, each on a different aspect of the show. After a real drought of mainstream making-of content, this was a fantastic return to form. The conversation style was really great, and different creatives were brought in to discuss different sides of the production. Interestingly, they didn't return to this format for season 2. We got a much more standard one-off documentary, although it still featured a lot of interviews, so it still had that personal touch. What I'm saying is, there's loads and it's great. I could gush about what Disney are doing for the world of movie extras forever. It's the modernization of the format that we've been crying out for years, and I genuinely think it will make a huge difference. I'm so grateful that this is something that happened. I think for now I'll keep buying my movies physically, but this new level of accessibility for bonus features is a huge step in the right direction. If Netflix and Amazon were able to take this on board, we would be living in the new golden age of this kind of thing. Having all of this content at our fingertips, occupying the same space as their corresponding movies, is a real step up in terms of ease and accessibility. I will always have nostalgia for the early 2000s DVD culture, but I honestly think that the Disney Plus approach to bonus features may be the best we've ever had it. Long may it continue. Thank you for watching. This is a subject I have a real passion for, and I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about it. If you did, leave a like and let me know in the comments what your favourite type of bonus feature is. I've been Joe Brennan. You can subscribe to me if you like. I'd certainly recommend it. I make a video every 2 weeks on all kinds of things. All the links to my socials are in the description below, and yeah, I think that's it. Love you lots.